They say women are a mystery, that you'll never understand what they want, that it's not even worth trying. But deep down, you've felt it. There are moments when she stares at you just a little too long, when her voice softens, when her walls lower, and you feel her leaning in. Not because of what you said, not because of how you look, but because of something she felt, something you probably didn't even know you were doing. This isn't about games. It's not about faking confidence or memorizing pickup lines. It's about understanding the reality no one dares to tell you. There are weaknesses inside every woman, vulnerabilities that only a certain kind of man can touch. And when you do, she won't just want you. She won't just respect you. She will crave you, think about you, and choose you, without logic, without control, without even knowing why. This video will expose the 9 real reasons women become obsessed with certain men. Not because they're rich, not because they're tall, but because they carry something inside, something almost extinct in today's world. You've been lied to. They told you being nice would get you love. They told you being available would make you more appealing. They told you she would love you more the more you gave, and you believed it. But all that did was make you invisible, replaceable, forgotten. So let's change that, right now. Today you will learn the 9 female weaknesses no one talks about. Not from a pickup artist, not from a dating guru, but from a perspective rooted in emotional truth, timeless wisdom, and the silent strength of men who know themselves. This is for the men who are tired of confusion, for the men who gave too much and got nothing in return, for the men who were everything she said she wanted, yet she still walked away. If that's you, then keep listening. You're about to unlock the truth that most men will never know. And once you understand it, there's no going back. Comment, "I refuse to be average." Because this journey is for the few who are done living on autopilot. You've wasted enough time hoping she'll see your worth. Now it's time you become the man worth seeing. Number 1, she's drawn to unshakable calm. When a woman meets a man who doesn't flinch, doesn't rush, and doesn't chase, her entire body responds before her mind catches up, because deep inside every woman is a need to feel steady ground, especially in a world where emotional chaos is a constant. And every man she's met before reacted, explained, pleaded, raised his voice, or tried to fix things fast just to keep her from leaving. But when she encounters that rare man who pauses when she lashes out, who takes a breath instead of defending himself, who doesn't compete with her emotional energy but absorbs it without resistance, something shifts in her. She feels confused, vulnerable, even exposed, because his calmness reflects her own inner turmoil and forces her to confront her feelings. And that's where the emotional switch flips. Because women don't fall for the man who reacts, they fall for the one who holds, not the one who wins the argument, but the one who refuses to be pulled into it, not to punish her, but because his peace is not up for negotiation. And in that moment, she realizes something powerful. This man doesn't move for her, and because of that, she starts moving toward him. And this isn't about being passive or playing cold. It's about knowing who you are so deeply that her fire doesn't shake your temperature. And when she feels that, it creates the most addictive sensation in her soul. The desire to be grounded by him, to lean on him emotionally, even if she doesn't say it out loud. Because when a woman sees a man whose calm is real, not rehearsed, not strategic, not a tactic, she feels safe enough to soften. And ironically, the moment she sees she can't control your emotions is the moment she becomes controlled by hers. Number 2, she opens to the man who doesn't explain himself. Most men lose the game before it even begins because they feel this need to explain their silence, their intentions, their worth, their boundaries, their choices. as if they owe her an internal dialogue. But when a man refuses to do that, when he lives by his code and doesn't negotiate it, he sends a message far louder than any well-worded argument ever could, and it tells her something primal, that he has a core that doesn't bend to her approval, and that core makes her question her own emotional power, because the minute you start explaining, you start losing position in her mind. You start shifting from the man she's trying to figure out to the man she no longer has to. And once she understands you fully, she controls the emotional narrative, and that's when her attraction dies. Not because you're wrong, but because you're too easy to understand, too eager to be seen, too desperate to be accepted. But when you move in silence, when you let your actions speak, and your boundaries stand without needing to be justified, she sees a type of strength she can't decode. And what she can't decode, she obsesses over. Because women aren't addicted to clarity. They're addicted to the unknown, and a man who's not trying to be understood is a puzzle her instincts can't walk away from. And that mystery, when it's grounded in authentic identity, not games, makes her wonder what's behind the calm, what made you this way, what you've been through, and that curiosity drives emotional investment in ways most men will never experience. Because the man who doesn't explain himself tells her without words that she can join his world, but only if she earns her place in it. Number 3, she can't resist a man who's emotionally unavailable. Now let's break something that most people will hate hearing. Women don't fall for the man who gives them his soul on the first date, who opens every emotional door before she even knocks, who lays his heart on the table like it's a resume to be judged. They fall for the man who holds back, who has a past she senses but can't access, who doesn't volunteer his scars or his reasons. And no, it's not because women want to be mistreated. It's because emotional distance triggers emotional curiosity. And when a woman senses you're holding something sacred behind your eyes, something painful, something powerful, she wants to be the one to reach it. She wants to be the only one who breaks the surface, and that chase awakens her most instinctive emotional wiring. The more you give away too early, the more predictable you become. And once you're predictable, you're no longer exciting. But when you remain emotionally self-contained, not cold, not robotic, but private in a powerful way, she leans in deeper. She starts thinking about what's behind your calm, what you've survived, what you're guarding. And that's when her emotional investment skyrockets, because women don't bond with men by facts. They bond by stories they imagine, by emotional doors they have to work to open. And if you give away your emotional depth too early, she doesn't feel special accessing it. But when you ration it, when you reveal it only through earned intimacy, through time, through loyalty, she feels chosen, not just liked. And that feeling is what every woman craves more than compliments or connection, because she doesn't want your vulnerability if everyone gets to see it. She wants to feel like your calm hides something powerful, something specific, and that only she will be close enough to touch it. And that right there is why the emotionally unavailable man haunts her thoughts. Because he's not rejecting her, he's giving her something rarer than attention. He's giving her a standard to reach. Number 4, she obeys the man who sets boundaries. A man without boundaries is a man without a frame. And no matter how charming, good-looking, or available you are, if you don't define the line where your energy ends and hers begins, you become invisible in her world, because boundaries aren't just rules. They are evidence of self-worth. And when a man draws a line and enforces it without emotion, without anger, without explanation, he reveals his deepest strength, the refusal to lose himself for anyone. And this is where most men fall, because when she pushes back, when she gets upset, when she withdraws after you say no, you panic. And in that panic, you soften the line, you negotiate it, you move it just to get her approval again. But what you don't realize is the moment you do that, she feels it in her core. This man doesn't truly stand for anything, and if he doesn't stand for something, how can she ever trust his direction? How can she ever surrender to him emotionally if he can't even protect the rules he sets for himself? And what she calls controlling in the man who enforces boundaries is often what she ends up craving most, because boundaries are clarity, and women are addicted to clarity disguised as restriction. They say they want freedom, but what they really crave is structure from a man who doesn't enforce it with ego, but with unwavering conviction. Because when she tests it, and she always will, it's not to break it, it's to see if you'll fold. And every time you don't, every time you say no and walk away if necessary, you send her the most powerful message a woman can receive from a man. I'm not afraid to lose you if it means keeping myself. And that message cuts through her emotional defenses and flips a switch most men will never reach. Not because it's manipulative, but because it makes her feel something no one else does. She feels safe knowing you won't betray your values to keep her. And that safety creates respect. And from that respect flows submission. Not in a weak, cliché way, but in the kind of way where she chooses to soften around you, to stop resisting, to lean in, to obey. Not because you asked, not because you forced, but because the masculine power of a boundary enforced without compromise creates a polarity she can't escape. She obeys not the man who commands, but the man who draws the line and never steps over it, even when her lips tremble, even when her voice gets louder, even when her body tempts him to bend. She obeys him because in a world full of men who would fold to keep her happy, he's the only one who stayed true, and that kind of consistency is what her nervous system has been begging for, whether she knows it or not. Number 5. She's addicted to emotional challenge, not comfort. Men have been sold a lie. That being the nice guy, the emotional sponge, the endlessly supportive partner who says yes to everything and always makes her feel safe and validated, will win her heart. But what no one tells you is that comfort is not what ignites her emotions. It's what numbs them. And the truth that most won't admit is that women do not fall in love with comfort. They fall in love with uncertainty, tension, and the man who awakens a part of her that isn't always relaxed, but is always engaged, always alert, always wondering what he'll say next, what he'll do next, where she stands, not because he's playing games, but because his emotional world isn't a padded cage. It's a mountain she must climb, and when every other man is trying to be her emotional massage therapist, coddling her feelings, afraid of offending her, walking on eggshells just to keep the peace. The man who tells her the truth, the man who doesn't validate her delusions, the man who challenges her emotions with his presence instead of trying to fix them. That's the man who stays on her mind, because emotional challenge is stimulation, and stimulation is the fuel of obsession. And when she senses that you're not here to make her feel okay, but to make her feel alive, she connects you with something deeper than comfort. She sees you as the man who reminds her of who she is when she's being real, not when she's being coddled. And yes, she may say she wants a listener, a supporter, someone who always understands. But she doesn't fall for that man. She falls for the one who tells her, "No, I disagree," and says it with so much composure that she has no choice but to confront herself. The man who can look at her when she's emotional and say, "You're allowed to feel that way, but I won't change who I am because of it," is the man who she stops trying to control and starts trying to impress, not because you're heartless, but because you're grounded in your reality more than you are in her emotional storm. And women are drawn to the man who keeps their emotions sharp, not safe. And when you become her mirror, clear, firm, reflective, she becomes addicted to you, not because you made her feel comfortable, but because you made her feel something she hadn't felt in years. The thrill of being around a man who never loses himself to her moods. And because of that, she can finally feel herself again in your presence. And that sensation becomes a high she comes back for, every time. Number 6, she follows the man with direction. There's a silent pull in a woman's heart, a pull she doesn't talk about, one that overrides everything she thinks she wants. And it's not about status, looks, or being charming. It's about direction. Because when a man enters a room with that invisible force around him, the energy of someone who knows exactly where he's going and why, every part of her becomes alert, not because of what he says, but because of what he moves toward without needing permission, and you'll see it if you look close enough. Her breathing shifts, her tone softens, her eyes follow longer, because direction creates gravity, and when you're a man of direction, you don't chase attention, you don't adjust your values to make her stay, because your eyes are fixed on something higher, and that higher pursuit changes how you move, how you talk, how you say no, how you make decisions, and she sees that even if she never says a word. When you have a mission, whether it's building your body, building your business, mastering a craft, or even developing your mind, you emit the scent of certainty in a world full of men drifting from one distraction to another. And that certainty isn't loud. It's not about talking about ambition or reciting goals. It's about that calm inner compass that says, I don't need to impress you. I already know where I'm headed. And the moment she feels that, she stops analyzing, stops comparing, and starts trusting. Not just you, but herself around you, because you represent something stable, something moving forward. And that forward movement gives her the space to relax, because women don't want to lead. They want to feel led by a man who doesn't need her to complete him, a man who's already complete because he's married to his path. And when you're that man, you stop seeking validation. You stop explaining yourself, and your time becomes sacred, not out of arrogance, but because your focus is committed. And women can't help but want to align with that kind of focus, not because you're pleasing them, but because you've mastered something every man has access to but few ever claim: the power of direction, the discipline to say no to temporary pleasure, the vision to build something bigger than just moments with her, and the strength to walk alone toward it, even if no one believes in you yet. And once she sees that, once she realizes that your life is not built around seeking her approval, but built around building something that makes you proud, she begins to rearrange her world just to orbit yours, not because you asked her to, but because that's what direction does. It leads, not with control, not with persuasion, but with clarity. And that clarity creates alignment, and alignment creates devotion. And that devotion is the very thing that makes her follow, not out of fear, not out of obligation, but because she feels safer in the shadow of a man with a destination than she ever felt in the spotlight of a man with none. Number 7, she craves mystery more than attention. You've been told the more attention you give her, the more she'll love you, and that if you keep texting, complimenting, and showing her how much she means to you, she'll eventually see your value. But here's the truth: they never told you. Attention satisfies her ego, but mystery feeds her soul. And when you strip away all the noise, all the fake relationship advice, and look at what truly draws a woman in, it's never the man who's the loudest. It's never the man who reveals everything. It's the one she can't quite figure out. The one who gives just enough for her to feel something, but not enough for her to decode it. Because when everything is revealed, when your life, emotions, schedule, and thoughts are fully accessible, she feels safe. But she doesn't feel magnetized, because magnetism is rooted in the unknown. And when a man keeps part of himself private, not out of secrecy, but out of depth, he becomes a space she wants to explore, a riddle she wants to solve. And when you're not constantly explaining your every move, when your actions speak louder than your posts, when your energy doesn't scream, "Look at me," but instead whispers, "There's more to me than what you see," she becomes obsessed, not with what she knows about you, but with what she doesn't. And this is where most men fail, not because they lack depth, but because they reveal everything too soon, thinking that emotional openness equals emotional intimacy. But what they don't realize is that real intimacy is built not in exposure, but in exploration. And she wants to explore you slowly, to feel like she's earning parts of you. And when you're a man of mystery, when your silence isn't emptiness but density, when your time isn't random but chosen, when your presence doesn't explain but invites, she feels something she rarely feels in today's world: wonder. And that wonder is the spark that keeps her up at night, wondering what you're thinking, what you're doing, how you see her. And that uncertainty is not her enemy. It's her addiction, because attention gives her a moment of satisfaction, but mystery gives her a reason to keep coming back. And when you become that mystery, you become unforgettable. Not because of what you gave her, but because of what she still hasn't received. And that anticipation is what binds her to you longer than any romantic gesture ever could. Number 8. She softens for the man who makes her laugh. There's a reason why the men she remembers the longest, the ones who leave marks she can't quite erase, aren't always the richest, strongest, or even the most good-looking. They're the ones who made her feel like she could drop her guard for a second and just be. Because in a world where women are constantly judged, constantly performing emotionally, constantly analyzing their every move for fear of being misunderstood, there's a rare magic in a man who can make her forget all of that just by the way he speaks, the way he delivers a moment, the way he can turn tension into play, not by mocking her. The energy don't realize is that laughter isn't just about being funny, it's about emotional leadership. Because when you can make her laugh, you're guiding her state, you're pulling her out of her mental spirals, her insecurities, her rehearsed reactions, and back into the present, where she's not managing your impression of her, but simply feeling free, relaxed, connected. And when a man has that gift, to break through her rehearsed composure with the right timing, with that edge of wit and rhythm and subtle rebellion, he gives her the one thing she doesn't even know she's missing: permission to be soft. Because laughter doesn't just make her feel good, it makes her feel safe. Safe that she's not being judged. Safe that you're not trying to impress her with force, but with light. And that lightness doesn't come from clowning around. It comes from confidence, from awareness, from being so in tune with yourself and her that you know exactly when to pull her back from the edge of defensiveness into something better, something warmer. And she won't always admit it, but every time you make her laugh in that way, not in the try-hard way, but in the "I see you, and I'm still going to tease you" way, you're melting the part of her that's been on high alert since childhood, since the world taught her she had to be perfect to be loved. And now, here you are, showing her she can be ridiculous, dramatic, over the top. And you'll still hold her energy without judgment. And it's in those laughs that connection deepens faster than through any serious talk. Because now she's not just thinking about you, she's associating you with the best version of herself. And that emotional imprint becomes a loop she can't break. Because the man who can lift her out of her mind and into her joy is the man she tells her friends about with a strange kind of smile. The man she remembers at random moments when things feel heavy. And that memory, that energetic trigger, is something no perfect date or romantic gesture can ever replace. Because laughter cuts deeper than compliments. It slips past her filters and touches her spirit. And once a woman feels that from you, she never sees you the same again. Because now you're not just another guy. You're the feeling she wants to come back to. And that desire is emotional gold. Number 9. She wants the man who can walk away at any moment. There is no force more terrifying and more attractive to a woman than a man who genuinely, completely, without anger or bitterness, has the ability to walk away and mean it. Not as a threat, not as a tactic, but as a natural expression of his values, his standards, his self-respect, because most men may talk about boundaries, but very few actually leave when those boundaries are crossed, and she can feel it. She can feel whether you're staying out of power or staying out of fear, and that's why she tests, why she pushes, why she throws emotional curveballs at you. Not to hurt you, but to see if you're real, to see if your center is made of iron or paper. And every time you stay in the room after she's disrespected your standards, every time you make excuses for her disrespect because you understand where she's coming from, every time you trade your dignity for closeness, you're not making her feel loved. You're making her feel nothing, because the man who clings signals that he has no ground to stand on without her approval. And that kind of man never creates obsession, only obligation. And women don't chase what they pity. They chase what they fear losing. And the only men they fear losing are the ones who will actually leave, not with a tantrum, but with clarity, with grace, with stillness that says, I don't need this. I want something better. And that level of calm detachment hits harder than any argument, because it reflects a man who knows he's the prize, who knows his value isn't up for debate, who doesn't wait to be chosen but chooses himself. And it's in that energy, not arrogance, but sovereignty, that a woman feels something she can't control. Urgency, because now it's not about what she can get from you, it's about what she's about to lose. And when she feels that shift, when she realizes you're not trying to convince her of your worth but are already gone the moment your standards are disrespected, her emotional walls collapse, not because you begged, but because you didn't. And in that moment, she goes from, I can have him anytime, to, I need to prove I'm worthy of him. And this is where the power flips. Not because you manipulated her, but because you finally stopped allowing your presence to be taken for granted. And most men will never feel this shift, not because it doesn't exist, but because they never develop the courage to walk away from something that looks good on the surface, but costs them their self-worth underneath. But when you do, when you let go without trying to teach her a lesson, when you leave with peace, with stillness, with that look that says, you'll miss this energy long after I'm gone, you imprint something far stronger than attraction. You create respect, and from that respect comes desire. Because now she's not just thinking about what she lost, she's asking herself why she lost it. And in that questioning, in that realization, she doesn't just want you back, she wants redemption. Because the man who walks away becomes the standard she compares every man to after you. And that legacy, that emotional echo, that's something only a man with real self-worth can leave behind. If this hit you somewhere deep, good. That discomfort, that clarity, that's the beginning of the man you were always meant to be. But if you forget what you just heard, you'll fall right back into the trap most men never escape. Giving your power away for crumbs of attention, apologizing for your strength, chasing women who only respect what they can't control. Don't be that man again. The ebook that breaks all of this down with ruthless real-world clarity is linked in the comments, but it won't stay public forever. Because truth like this, it's dangerous to systems built on lies. So grab it now, protect your mind, and change your future. Like the video, subscribe, and help more men hear what they were never supposed to. Comment, power over approval. Let that be your code. Let that be your reminder. Because you either live by truth or you suffer by comfort.